Okay, I'm going to try this again. This is SPQR. I picked up, as you can see, a fairly old copy of it. This is a first edition rulebook. Unfortunately, it got a little screwed on my own fault, but on the purchase, I ended up paying more than the deluxe edition for this. More than I probably would have paid for the deluxe edition unpunched somewhere. I've seen it go for less. Why is this maybe not that terrible a deal? Well, it comes with 4 of the modules, the 4 first ones, and there's a couple battles in there that aren't in the deluxe version. On the other hand, there's a couple battles in the deluxe version from other modules that I don't have. On top of that, the rulebook may have changed, although I looked at briefly at the Alexander one, and it doesn't look like there's anything huge different there. This particular battle I'm doing is Heraclea. This is after the Pyrrhic victories. Module, and it's the earliest of the battles that I have. I don't know why I have all these others in here, just to give me a bigger stack. Okay, so there may be some differences in the rules, or I may just screw some things up. We're used to both of these cases. I'd like to look a little bit at the rules, to some extent to refresh myself, probably more than whatever I give to you in terms of the rules, but maybe me stumbling through will help. So, the order of play in the game is, and it's a little different from Samurai here. Samurai had a simplified system where leaders had specific commands. That's not the case here. Here, everything's kind of one line. And you also notice that the Greeks, this is the Greeks here, there's their big phalanxes, as opposed to the Romans, who are set up in a much looser looking formation. We got some light units guarding the river line to make it a little bit less pleasant to cross. But, and this is Pyrrhus' first battle with the Romans. He's trying to make himself seem impressive so that maybe some of those allies that he was discussing joining with would get involved. This little bit of map is all clear terrain. It's just not part of, I think it's used in the osculum scenario is what they claim. But anyway, the meat of each turn is a series of activations of leaders. And activation of leaders in this, in general, goes to the person with the lowest initiative rating first. Now, if we look, there are lots and lots of symbols and numbers, some of which have been made obsolete. For example, mortality disappeared even in after the first edition. In the upgrade that I have here, mortality is already gone. Okay, but the key important one, the initiative rating, which is this number right here, and that little triangle indicates that that's an elite leader. We have an elite leader on the board, Pyrrhus. So, the initiative rating is the order in which you go in. The higher your initiative, the better a leader you are. However, sometimes it's an advantage to go first. So you're allowed to trump, and you make a roll, and if you roll less than or equal to, I believe, your initiative rating, you bypass all the other leaders and get to take your activation at that point. Now, each activation can continue going, and we saw this in both Samurai and in the Men of Iron stuff. if you, well, not in Men of Iron. If you succeed in it, if you do your activation, you can make an initiative roll to keep momentum, and then you can keep moving and keep moving. There's a limit of 3 of them in this. Once you've had 3 of them, you are done, and we go to the next leader. The elite leader has the advantage of being able to kind of trump in automatically. I don't know if that's just on the first, take a quick peek. Yeah, he can only do that as the first activation of the turn. And in this scenario, Pyrrhus, although he's the elite leader, doesn't have it for the first turn of the scenario. There's a possibility, well, the Romans have the option to use it to activate these off-board cavalry who can come in here and they kind of surprise Pyrrhus and distract him enough that the Romans can cross this river. Whether or not that river is that big an obstacle in the scenario, it's not considered much of one. It's pretty much fordable across its length, but it does provide for some annoyance to cross. Okay, so one of the things with movement that's kind of different from most games, and most specifically from Samurai, which I thought was closer to this series. I mean, now I look at others like War Galley and realize that this is not really a series in every sense of the word, so much as a brand name at this point. I mean, War Galley doesn't handle any of the same rule set as far as I can see. All right. So Samurai is very different from what is sort of the main line here, and SPQR and Alexander are definitely on that main line. I'm not sure how many of others are. I put a bit in on Line of the North, and I can't imagine that being terribly similar. But I want to give it a look, see how much work. I mean, I put a very low bid on, and it's missing a piece. But I want to see how much worse it is than, say, the Musket and Pike series. Okay. So, with this, movement is you activate a leader, and he doesn't have a specific command. He defines that command, and he defines it using his initiative rating, actually. That's how many units he can give individual orders to. And he has a range, which I think is this 5 here, of how far away a unit can be to get an order from. But there's another option, which is line orders. Now, line orders, first of all, you have to be of the proper type. You have to be all connected unless you have an asterisk. If you have an asterisk, you can have a space in between. And I don't know what else. Let me see, because defining a line is something I haven't done, so I think that it can go as far as it likes, that you're not limited to your command range on a line. So for example, this guy could command this entire line in order to move forward. Now, the backside of units indicates that they've moved once in the turn already. And there's some penalties to moving units more than once. They're not severe, but it does have an effect on the game. Losses in this game are normally handled by cohesion hits. A unit has a tactical quality. See if I can show you where that is. So a unit has a number of values. Size, which is just, in most games, pretty important. But it has a troop quality. And once you have enough cohesion hits equal to your troop quality, your unit routes. And you get these from combat, and you get them from movement. All right. So anyway, once you actually engage, and there's, you know, I don't remember what this is. Ah, yes. Okay. There's, missile fire that can happen, opportunity fire ranged. Various different units have different rules to handle them. They have different types of weaponry. And that'll cause cohesion hits. But the main combat function in the game is the shock combat, of course. And the way you determine that, there's a number of different factors that go into it. First of all, there's this clash of spears and swords, which is really a matrix of one weapon and tactical system against another. And that gives you the base column on the shock combat table that you'll be rolling on. Positional advantages, or one unit being just superior to another, can cause a modification to the amount of damage that's done from one side to the other. And what else do we have here? We have column shifts due to size ratio. If a unit is much larger than another, you can get advantages there. This indicates all the different actions that can cause cohesion hits. For example, just moving can cause cohesion hits to units, especially in unclear terrain. Cause some movement allowance. All right. So the goal of the game is casualties when it comes down to it. And once an army has taken a certain level of casualties, it flees the field. Pretty simple there. The mechanisms in this game are very, very complex, and I do not have a good enough grasp to give a real introduction based on that. I know I've been giving rules introductions before, but I just do not feel terribly comfortable with this. So we're looking at my first look at the real games of this Great Battles of History series. SPQR and Alexander definitely are real ones. I don't know what else is and what isn't. I know War Galley isn't, and I know Samurai isn't. But I've been collecting up games of the series and hope to be getting more and more of them up on the table as we go to see what happens. All right, let me wrap this and send it up.